Hey everybody, Josh Sigurdson of World Alternative Media here, and welcome to another episode of WAM News Live. And we are going to start off right away, but first, for those that are just tuning in right now, as we kind of start off the live stream, make sure to press like on the video below, just to get us to the top of the algo as much as possible, because, you know, shady business on YouTube these days. I'm doing this episode more in 1080, so hopefully there won't be a connection issue. I am in Las Vegas, so surprising to a lot of people, Las Vegas internet isn't very good compared to most places. But anyway, so I see JRM O'Brien says sup to you as well. Good to see you. Good to see everyone tuning in. Niku Soren says hello, man. First like, good job. Make sure to press like I mentioned. And for those that aren't aware of how this concept works with WAM News Live, what I do is first I do the report live on the screen for everyone to see. And then I finish the report and I cut it out later to put up as independent reports. It makes it a lot easier for me to actually get content out there all the time and focus on life as well. Because as many of you might know, I'm heading to Africa shortly. And I want to get as much up as possible. This Africa trip is making me broke. It was ending up way more expensive than I expected. So for anyone, Yakov Markel, Anarchy Jewish Man is tuned in. Great. But for those wondering, Bitcoin tips are very, very much appreciated. So that's an option. It helps us keep this whole operation going and stay alive. It's not easy business these days as YouTube shadow bans us to death. Anyway, so I see Karen, lots of hearts. Thank you, Karen. And lots of people are tuning in now. So I think I'll just get to it. But again, press like on the video so it actually gets picked up by the algorithm. Makes a big difference. So let's see. We got a few stories that I wanted to go into today. And I figure that as you could probably see from the thumbnail for the video itself, it might include Joe Biden. That might have something to do with the show today. I'm not sure if I'm going to be talking about him eating ice cream or whatever, but I don't know. We'll get to that in a moment. I'm not going to spoil it at all for any of you. Actually, I don't even know what I'm going to do, so we'll find out. I kind of wing this whole thing. Imelda Andrade says, hope you're feeling better from California. Thanks for asking. As a matter of fact, I still have a lung infection. It's been like 2 weeks or so. 3 weeks almost. Yeah. Not fun, but I'm doing everything I can to get rid of it before I go to Africa. Anyway, press like on the video. Let's begin. Don't go anywhere. Once I finish this report, I'll still be here to take questions. So load this up on the screen and let's get to it. As this article from CNBC News says, Biden hires over a dozen senior advisors from Obama administration for 2020 campaign, according to sources. So Biden actually thinks it's a good idea to expose himself on the public stage, no pun intended, by actually running. It's just so crazy with everything that's come out about Joe Biden recently, and has been out for years really, but is really only getting traction today. It's just amazing that he has the gall to actually go and try and run. But anyway, as the article goes into, former Vice President Joe Biden and his team have hired over a dozen senior advisors from President Barack Obama's administration for his upcoming 2020 campaign for president, CNBC has learned. Many of these people didn't work with Biden's office throughout Obama's tenure as president, but they have extensive campaign experience ranging from political consulting to communications, according to sources with direct knowledge of the matter. Since their time in the Obama White House, some of these aides have gone on to work on Hillary Clinton's 2016 presidential campaign and later helped Democrats retake the U.S. House of Representatives during the 2018 congressional midterm elections, these people said. So they're experts at lying, deceiving, spreading criminality worldwide. They're the perfect people to get involved in this campaign. Anyway, numerous former Obama White House advisors who have been brought on to work with Biden's team have yet to hear where the campaign will be headquartered, but they expect it will be either in Delaware or Pennsylvania. Biden was born in Scranton, Pennsylvania, and as a senator represented the first state for over 3 decades. Okay, those who described the recent hirings declined to be named in this story because they did not want to get ahead of the upcoming announcement. NBC News reported on Friday that the former lawmaker is set to announce his much-anticipated 2020 presidential run next week. Biden, according to people with direct knowledge of the matter, is likely to roll out his campaign video in the coming days. A spokesman for Biden declined to comment. At a recent press gaggle with reporters, the former vice president touted his connection to Obama and their legacy. And I quote, "I'm an Obama-Biden Democrat, man, and I'm proud of it," he said at the time. That's good. Since at least March, Biden and his team have been discussing potential economic policies for a third White House campaign, including an infrastructure reform plan, cutting taxes for the middle class, and bettering income inequality, CNBC first reported. An emphasis on infrastructure would give Biden an opportunity to directly challenge Donald Trump on a key aspect of the president's Make America Great Again agenda. Trump ran on improving the nation's roads, bridges, and tunnels, but those policies have yet to take shape as the administration's $1 trillion infrastructure plan failed to gain traction. Yeah, let's battle over how much other people's money we spend. And I also want to point out something that he mentioned here. He said that he wants to cut taxes for the middle class and bettering income inequality. So there's an issue right there that kind of coincides at the same time, because the income inequality that we see today is largely, almost entirely, due to inflation and printing of currency. And so is the destruction of the middle class, completely destroyed by not only, obviously, just, inflation, but also regulations and taxes as well. Cutting taxes on the middle class is always good. Cutting taxes on anyone is always good. Getting rid of taxes, period, is always good. Asking for voluntary payments is always good. But the government doesn't do anything that they don't personally benefit from. The government's whole intention is organized crime, to basically plunder the masses, to sacrifice them as pawns for the king and the queen. And Biden, it's all just divisive politics, theater, an attempt to drive people against each other. Biden, Trump, Hillary, Obama, Mitt Romney, Rick Santorum, Herman Cain, all these people, like Jeb Bush, it's all just different people played against each other, different, figureheads played against each other that all have the intention to lead you, to have control over you. And they benefit from your subservience, your debt, you begging on your knees for help from the government. It just keeps you in that paradigm, whether it's the left-right paradigm or the paradigm of collectivism in general, of just depending on the state to help you, when the state's main intention is to further and further control you all the time, no matter what party, no matter what person, no matter how much they say they're anti-establishment. And the notion, let's go back a bit. Bill Clinton largely won because he was considered anti-establishment. Oh, he played saxophone on TV. Great. And then you can lead into George W. Bush. He ran as an anti-establishmentarianist as well. Audit the Fed and non-interventionism. How did that work out? And then Obama ran on being, obviously non-interventionist and non-GMO and pro-legalization and all that, anti-establishmentarianist, quote unquote. And then Trump comes in as even a more anti-establishmentarianist, jail Hillary Clinton, I haven't seen that yet, and all this kind of stuff, and attacking the Fed, which now he's promoting the Fed by, asking for more quantitative easing, more printing of currency, all that kind of stuff, and, vetoing the wartime resolution with Yemen recently, and saying that he's pulling troops out of Syria. Everyone praises him, and then it turns out he's keeping troops in Syria, and I quote, to protect the world and protect Israel. That's a real quote. The mainstream media didn't cover that because they'll only cover nonsense Trump stories. Anyway, my point is, Biden, what legacy is he talking about with Obama? The one of spying on all civilians, on creating vast amounts of debt and propping up the deficit insanely. The idea of bombing countless countries, more countries than any other president in history, killing hundreds of thousands of people, starting proxy wars in countries that led to ISIS as they arm and fund ISIS. What is this notion that he somehow went through some non-scandalous period or this presidency? I keep hearing this from people. People seem to forget really easily. Like, they're like, Obama had a scandal-free presidency. What? How did he have a scandal-free presidency? He was one of those scandalous presidents in history. But, of course, we are so controlled by the media and their narrative that we just forget these things. So, again, the point is, it doesn't matter what president is in office, whether it's Joe Biden or anyone. There's other people in charge in the back, and it doesn't even matter because you don't have a right over other people. You don't have a right to say, I have a good idea and it requires force on the populace because, good ideas somehow require force, which they don't. And when you have a central banking system printing vast currency out of thin air using enforced usury and legal tender laws and making you pay off the interest on the debt using your tax money that's stolen from you, hard-earned money, basically them saying they have a contract with you that you are a slave and you are going to give away half your money that you work hard for to the state, an organized crime racket. You are being enslaved, you are being led to the slaughter, you are being used and abused and used to throw you further into servitude and allowing this system to further encroach on your free will. You are a free human being. The government cannot give you freedom, it can only take it away, and that is the entire benefit of the state. They will take your freedoms away. They benefit from that, and they will do everything they can to fool you into further just submitting to this entity. And they make things black and white with the media through their propaganda. So it's either, left or right. Let's clash these people against each other. Everyone fights with each other, and they are completely distracted from the true enemy, the true people, or the true entity that is controlling them and leading them to the slaughter. People think they are free. They sit on a farm like good little cattle, and they got grass to eat. They're eating the grass, and they're surrounded by fence, and every now and then the shepherd will pull the fence out a bit further, and it's like, oh, we got more room to roam. Yeah, that's real freedom. We're eating grass. Everything's good. My friends keep disappearing, but I don't know why. I should be happy. I shouldn't complain. We got grass. There's other factory farms over there that are much worse. And then you get led off to the slaughter with a smile on your face, and then what happens? People's apathy begets this kind of stuff, this collectivism, this encroachment of free will, this constant destruction of you as an individual, creating a vast collective enslaved racket. And again, they are sacrificing you as pawns for the king and the queen. And what do? Well, maybe this guy will do it better. Pepsi or Coke, red or blue. Both are made by probably the same company in the end, and they're both really bad for you. But let's just pick one or the other because pragmatism. No, pragmatism is inconsistency. It's lack of principle. Pragmatism is just an excuse for laying comfortable in bed while these entities completely destroy your freedoms. Trust the plan. Wait to see what happens. Yeah, that apathy will not go over well, and it hasn't for the thousands of years that this idea of democracy has taken place, going back to ancient Greece. When is it ever going to get better, the change we can believe in? When is this change coming? It only gets worse constantly, all the time, forever. So as this slave racket increases in size, it's an incremental frog boil to complete collectivism and enslavement. What are the solutions? Well, the solutions are not obeying, breaking free from that system. The free market is a great example. If it was free and not completely regulated, taxed to death by the government, pushing small businesses out of the market and propping up major monopolies under the guise of stopping major monopolies, if it were truly free, we would be able to vote with our dollar. We would be able to vote as with our conscience with the dollar that we have, or currency we have rather, because no legal tender laws. And, things would be much cheaper. There'd be much more competition, innovation, technology. Our health would be better. People would have more money in their pockets, more employment, more vast ideas for employment or types of employment. The point is, the possibilities are endless. And it comes down to you as an individual, free of this system, responsible, taking care of yourself, and not thinking that you know what's best for everyone else, and then you have to enforce it at the point of a gun on everyone else. So anyway, we will continue to break this issue down as Joe Biden continues to actually think it's a good idea to run for president. You realize, Joe Biden, that you running for president is going to only land you in more trouble as people expose more and more footage of you fondling children, you creep. It's not going to go over very well, is it? I don't know. I think that it's Hillary Clinton all over again. Hillary Clinton deciding to run for office, and she gets exposed because she's like one of the most crooked human beings ever, if you can call her human. And it's so obvious. Like, why would you submit yourself to that? It's all part of the establishment's plan, though, after all, and it's all a script. I don't know. Anyway, we will continue to cover this. This is Josh Sigurdson signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change. All right, guys. I don't know how much more I can deal with covering politics, because the answer remains the same always. Let's see. I got lots of comments coming in. Again, super chats, go to the top. They will help us actually read your messages on a more efficient scale. Part-time friend says hello from Finland, or hello again from Finland. Hello to you as well. Let's see. Bob Burton. Biden forced the removal of a prosecutor in Ukraine. Well, yeah, they were heavily involved in trying to start a war in Ukraine with Russia, and it would also benefit them quite a lot to create a world war scenario. It benefits the monetary system as well. For those that are just tuning in, make sure to press like on the video. It helps us actually be seen on YouTube, as algo makes it very difficult for us. At the moment, we have 61 people out of 121,000 people, so you can imagine we don't reach that many people. But we're very happy to see everyone that has tuned in today. Let's see here. I got more stories, and for those that are just tuning in, what I do is I report the stories live, then I cut them, and then I repost them later on as individual reports. Saves me a bunch of time and effort, and lets me get out more content and information. And you guys get to watch me screw up live. That's the best part. Again, I'm gonna try my best not to cough. I still have a lung infection after like 3 weeks. It's just not going away. Anyway, make sure to share the video as well if you can. Mr. B, Top Man Josh, back at you. Okay, I'm going to get this ready to go, and we will be off for another report. And again, I'm just winging it, so let's hope for the best. Anyway. All right, so I cannot go without talking a little bit more about what happened at the Notre Dame Cathedral. There's a lot of strange information coming out. There's a lot of false information. There's a lot of true information. There's a lot of mysterious information. I'm not going to speculate on who's involved in anything, if anyone, but nonetheless, it's worth going over, because when you have something like Julian Assange's arrest and the Yellow Vest movement and all these things happening, it's convenient to have a distraction, and it's a good way to quote-unquote falsely unite people in order to distract them from the real stories. But anyway, this People magazine article says $1 billion donated to Notre Dame in 2 days after massive fire ravaged Paris Cathedral. And there's a lot we can talk about regarding how much money has been put towards the Notre Dame Cathedral versus people starving in the streets. But again, we'll break that down a little bit further on in the video. But first, I want to talk about this. This is interesting. I saw this video, and I can't play it on YouTube for copyright reasons. Even with fair use, they're really strict these days. But there's a video of the former Notre Dame chief architect saying ancient oak doesn't burn like that. And he was casting doubt on the official narrative of the Notre Dame Cathedral, which, by the way, I want to clarify. I love history. I love old structures. It's a work of art. It's a beautiful building, regardless of what you think it might represent, or what might, and how it might involve people, again, like I mentioned, on the street starving and everything, and money going towards this instead. I realize people's concern. I do have to say, it's hard to watch a structure like this burn to the ground. It's a historic structure. It's almost 900 years old. But anyway, let's get into this article here. It says, a former chief architect and general inspector of French historical monuments has cast doubts on the official narrative that Notre Dame fire was likely an electrical short that set the iconic cathedral ablaze. Benjamin Mouten, who served as chief architect of historic monuments in France and oversaw restoration work of Notre Dame until 2013, says that it is highly unlikely an electrical short circuit took place, and that it would take an extraordinary effort to ignite the ancient oak of the cathedral. And you can see the video here, but I'm not going to play it Again, just because it's not safe for me to do that on YouTube. And I quote, it says, "So you're telling us that this type of timber doesn't burn like that?" Moten was asked by an LCI host. And I quote, he said, "Oak that is 800 years old is very hard. Try to burn it," Moten said. "Old oak, it is not easy at all. You would need a lot of kindling to succeed. It stupefies me." Asked to present an explanation for how the blaze spread so quickly and with such strength, Moten asserted that there were no additional precautions that could have been taken to ensure such a quick incineration could be prevented. "In the 90s," he said, and I quote, "In the 90s, we updated all the electrical wiring of Notre Dame," Moten said. "So there is no possibility of a short circuit. We updated to conform with the contemporary norms, even going very far, all the detection and protection systems against fire in the cathedral." Moten also revealed that there are 2 watchmen on duty around the clock who monitor for any chance of fire, adding that the technical and security measures taken to protect monuments like Notre Dame are unprecedented. More than €1 billion have been pledged to restore Notre Dame, which President Emmanuel Macron claims will be executed within 5 years. So let's talk about this a little bit. There's so much to go into here, but I wanted to mention there have been a lot of fake stories. There's been a lot of stories regarding, it looked like the ghost of a Knights Templar running around in the tower when it was clearly a fireman on video. That was going around on Alex Jones. I don't know why he was sharing this. And I know News Wars is owned by Alex Jones. But my point is, that's a strange story. It's nonsense. I can say that right now. There's also evidence or video of a guy like on a webcam about an hour before it burned, walking on the roof and a flash going off. But there's no saying what that is. Again, speculation begets more noise, and with more noise, you never find the answers. It gets so confused that it becomes more difficult to find the answers. But one thing is for sure, when you have a situation like the Yellow Vest movement, and when you have a situation like the arrest of Julian Assange in the news, all these things, they perfectly make everyone quiet just suddenly. Like you share a video or like a story like the Notre Dame fire, and people suddenly just become quiet on more important subject matters. Like, look, the destruction of a nearly 900-year-old historic work of art is sad. It's really sad to watch. I do not want to see it. It's burned before, I should mention, early 20th century, but it's sad to watch. It's horrible to watch. I hate watching works of art destroyed, but that's a personal thing. Obviously, it is more important to make sure people aren't starving in the now on the streets. It is more important to be charitable in that sense, and I don't mean at a government level. I mean at a personal level, because there is that part of me where I'm looking at this story and I see all these people voluntarily giving hundreds of millions of dollars, adding up to about $1 billion in funds to restore the project. It's like, this is why we don't need government. Government would make it more inefficient, probably screw up a whole bunch of places, cheap out, embezzle a bunch of the money, contract things out so that they bring in more and more taxpayer money and extort people more. That's the way it goes. And then you see the issue of the people on the streets begging for food. There's so much homelessness. And then you go over to the UK, which I do have an article here that I want to bring up quickly while we're at it. You have, like in the UK, as this independent article says, number of children in absolute poverty across UK hits 3.7 million after increases of 200,000 in a year. And it's absolutely sickening to watch play out. And we know the culprit. And we know that when the state is involved in, this vast amount of entitlement programs, vast printing of currency, you have people end up in poverty when you print vast amounts of currency, tax people to pay off the interest on the debt, use and force usury, all fraudulent, and creating debt slaves of everyone. It's a perfect situation to just make everyone a debt slave. And on top of that, if you can utilize a story like the Notre Dame Cathedral burning to divide people more, why wouldn't they? Of course they will. It just comes down to you not falling for it, because they've made this a mainstream story. They've made it where people are blaming the Jews, people are blaming the Muslims, people are saying good, screw the Catholic Church, all that kind of stuff. And it's like they're just trying to get people worked up to fight inside their own groups. It's infighting, and it's one of the most beneficial things for the state to have that kind of infighting, because when you have that kind of infighting, you have divide, you have people distracted from the true enemies, they are clashing with each other, and then on top of that, you are indebting the populace dramatically, and it pushes them into further servitude, because a populace in debt is a populace in servitude. If they shove you down a bottomless pit of debt, you are forced to ask for a ladder up from the government and the banking system, which puts you into perfect servitude right where they want you. So Macron is a criminal, and of course he's saying, yeah, we will rebuild it, and they want to rebuild it in some weird, diverse way. Like, I don't even know what they're talking about. They're trying to make it all SJW and everything, and that's going to further divide people and cause people to clash even further. But one way or another, I find the destruction of the cathedral itself very strange. Now, I can go back to Winnipeg in the 1960s in Canada. There's a cathedral called the St. Boniface Cathedral. It burned to the ground, and the reason for it burning to the ground was... Sorry, I'm just looking this up here. The reason for it burning to the ground was allegedly due to the fact that someone dropped a cigarette butt while painting it. You could see an image of it here. It was a great cathedral, and it started on fire. My grandparents actually got married at this place. I grew up down the street from this place. It's still standing today, but it's just, a shadow of what it once was, just a frame, and, they made the best out of it as a tourist attraction / graveyard. But my point is, we can't end up spending billions of dollars of extorted funds to rebuild a building. We have people that are willing to pay for it. That's great. We also have to think about the fact that it isn't that easy to burn down one of these buildings, but in the case of the St. Boniface Cathedral, yes, you had someone drop a cigarette butt in paint that was highly flammable at the time, and the place blew up. The Notre Dame Cathedral isn't a cathedral like it's a massive, almost 900-year-old cathedral with what he said was hard wood. And I saw the video of that former architect talking about the Notre Dame Cathedral, and it kind of struck me. It's like, what is going on? Was it accidental? It could have been. But was it on purpose? It could have been. I don't know. It just seems like it's a cross between a divisive story that's meant to distract people and divide them at the same time as there might have been a legitimate false flag in play here to distract people. And why wouldn't he? I mean, culture in France and in Paris in general as well, culture is being destroyed as far as churches go. There's churches burning down at record rates all across the world right now, as Dan Dix of Press for Truth pointed out in a recent video. And they are trying to transform European culture dramatically. The government is. It's another divide tactic. I'm not taking one side or the other. I'm just pointing out the facts. And at the same time, you have them talking about potentially replacing the structural veneer of the Notre Dame Cathedral with non-Christian items because they think it might be offensive. Like, I don't know. It just seems like this is all part of a narrative that was meant to happen. And I think in the end, they are just trying to either distract people, divide people, both, and destroy culture at the same time. I don't know. But either way, I think that it's worth questioning. It's worth questioning everything. And I find it strange that obviously there's been some channels that have been taken down recently for questioning this stuff. There have been a lot of fights going on over, whether people celebrated the burning of it or not. I've seen people on all sides of the argument celebrating the burning of the cathedral. I thought it was terrible. I hate watching historic monuments fall. But again, I think it's all part of that narrative, and it works so perfectly and conveniently for all of the state officials to be able to drive people against each other and cause these kinds of problems. I'm sure there will be lots more. I'm sure they will continue burning down churches. There's also mosques burning. It's just all-out chaos of people trying to, or governments trying to divide people because it keeps them again, in perfect servitude to them. So I don't know where I'm going with this. I'm just rambling. I'm just giving you my thoughts because obviously there has been a lot of talk about this lately, and it's been less than a week, and it's gotten to this point where it's polarized. It's people fighting so dramatically over social media over this issue, and I don't know what to make of it, but all I know is that we should question everything always, and always look with queer eye at the government, especially considering the state only wants to benefit themselves. They will only benefit themselves, and their whole the whole complex of the state itself is organized crime meant to extort and push people into dependency, and this is another way to do it. And it again, everything the state does is for their own benefit. So thanks for watching, everyone. I'm hoping I didn't rant on too long about this because I kind of just go into these reports not knowing what I'm going to say next. I do a bit of research and then talk. And you can thank me for not using a teleprompter. So anyway, until next time, this is Josh Sigurdson signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change. All right, guys. I had absolutely no idea what I was doing there. Man, once I started getting into the Canadian Cathedral there, I realized, like, uh-oh, what am I saying? What am I going to say next? But that's the fun of watching these things live on YouTube. So I do have more reports for those that are just tuning in. We do the reports live, then we cut them, and then we repost them later on as separate video reports. Keeps us getting information out on a wider scale. I keep seeing people drop off dramatically when I end these reports. I'm not going anywhere. Stay here when I finish the reports. I will continue to take questions. But make sure to press like on the video and get it into the algo. We have 59 people watching out of 121,000 people. So there's that. Anyway, let's see. We got more reports to do here today. And I just want to get this up and get it ready to go. Because there are a lot of problems plaguing us right now, and I think it's good to break them down as comprehensively as possible and give as many solutions as possible, because I think people are starving for solutions right now, instead of just only being told about how crazy everything is and how brutal everything is. So anyway, let me get to this next report, and again, for those just tuning in, when I sign out of this report, don't go anywhere. I'll still be here. And make sure people know in the comments or just write in the chat or something, because it's the only way for me to properly do these reports and make them look good afterwards when I cut them out and repost them. Anyway, let's do this. As this Zero Hedge article says, housing starts collapse continues. Worst annual drop since 2011. And as the article goes into, well, this should steal the jam out of the Green Shoot Brigade's donut. Housing starts and permits unexpectedly tumbled in March. Housing starts fell 0.3% month over month against expectations of a 5.4% rebound. And to make matters worse, February's 8.7% plunge was revised down to a shocking 12% collapse. And you can see the chart here. And then here comes another chart. This is the weakest level of housing starts since May 2017. And a biggest year-over-year drop since 2011, suggesting builders remain wary even as lower mortgage rates and steady wage gains offer support to consumers. And the collapse was broad-based. Northeast, negative 28.3% year-over-year. Midwest, negative 28% year-over-year. South, minus 4.1% year-over-year. West, minus 19.5% year over year. Both multi and single family starts dropped, with the latter at its lowest since September 2016. Permits were just as ugly, dropping 1.7% month over month against expectations of a 0.7% rise. And like starts, February's data was downwardly revised from negative 1.6% to negative 2.05% month over month. And here's another chart showing housing permits, single and multifamily rental units. Oh man, the drop signals the drop signals developers continue to struggle to build affordable properties amid rising labor and material costs, but lower rates and green shoots. Anyway, I want to also go into this article, if I can refresh it. Here we go. It's another Zero Hedge article, which also talks about this issue in depth. The Greenwich housing market is imploding as prices tumble as much as 25%. Houses in the exclusive Connecticut suburb of Greenwich, long known as an enclave for hedge fund managers, are now selling for significantly less lately, with one recent colonial house forced to the auction block. The property, located on the iconic Round Hill Road, is being sold in what would normally be unthinkable fashion for Greenwich. It's being auctioned. Its price tag used to be $3.795 million, but now the 4-bedroom property will be sold for its reserve price of just $1.8 million, according to the Wall Street Journal. Its seller, Isaac Hakim, was faced with a grim buyer strike reality and said it was time to move on. "We are ready to sell and I don't want it to drag on," he told the Wall Street Journal. Where is Hakim rushing to? Why, Florida, of course, and we've gone into this a lot before, and he's getting out because he knows it's only going to get worse. I mean, it goes without saying, but anyway, we'll go into that in a bit later. While these types of luxury home auctions frequently happen in other parts of the country, it's rarely seen in a market like Greenwich, which used to be a beacon for top players on Wall Street and still remains one of the richest towns in the United States. But Greenwich now faces new challenges. As New Yorkers opt to live in the city, and even some, like Hakim, relocating to Florida in search of a favorable tax environment, the bonuses that were used to prop up the real estate market from bankers are also starting to run dry, while SALT limitations make owning a luxury house increasingly prohibitive. This has forced a sharp repricing of the local real estate market, as sellers are starting to accept less, and owners that paid top dollar for their homes in the 2000s are embracing the need to make concessions if they want to sell. There were 45 properties in Greenwich priced at more than $5 million that had their prices reduced by 10% or more in the 12 months between April 2018 and March 2019. Attorney Frank J. Gilbride II said one of his clients recently sold his home for $11.18 million after buying it for $14.7 million in 2007. He said, "We're finding that the larger backcountry homes have not been selling recently because the new buyers don't want to maintain 10 acres of grass. A lot of sellers are taking haircuts of $1 million or more just to move on." And there's so much to go into here, so I'm just going to start breaking it down. So first of all, I want to mention that, and we'll get into the housing bubble in a moment, but the whole area around Connecticut, and I mean throughout the country, California as well, oh man, everywhere you go, Washington State, everywhere. There is a massive bubble brewing, but also the centralization on the economy and the regulations and the taxes add up. The price of living with the inflation rising at the printing of currency at the Federal Reserve. The true inflation stats being around 11%, according to Shadow Stats, based on the 1980 standard, is making things unaffordable. So paying to water that lawn is getting more unaffordable. Also, the taxes and the regulations on top of that, and then renter laws, which are really hurting people that are renting out their property to other people. That's a huge problem, and it's creating slumlords. And it's all just as government intervention, but then at the same time, governments and banks are hand in hand, aren't they? And we see massive bubbles propped up throughout the United States and elsewhere, everywhere in the world, because you know why? There's this religion of centralization, of propping things up, of making things artificial and inflating massive bubbles everywhere. You see the everything bubble worldwide, the everything bubble including the multi-quadrillion dollar derivatives bubble worldwide, and the pension bubble, which is looking at a shortfall of $400 trillion by the year 2050, which is 4 times the world's GDP, more than that. So I mean, these are problems in every market right now, but the housing markets throughout the United States are faltering because we have the return of collateralized debt obligations, basically packaging together, let's say 98 bad mortgages with 2 good mortgages and then rating them AAA. Totally insane. More examples of complete centralization and debt and control. Then obviously mortgage-backed securities and credit default swaps. And then we have the subprime lending happening again, where thousands are lining up to get crazy loans. It's just, when are people going to learn? We've seen this before. We've seen this multiple times before. It's been pushed off in a lot of cases from 2007, 2008, and prolonged, which means it'll come down even harder and more dangerously on the heads of everyone that are, it's going to result in this massive collapse. And we're going to see so many people lose their homes, more than 2007. We are going to see banks repossessing things left and right. And then what do you see at the same time? You see a second chance, third chance, fourth chance loans. The insanity of, this notion of just getting a loan on top of a loan, and a loan to help you pay off another loan that you got, and just vast debt. And you know what that means? Debt servitude, guys. We've gone into this before. When you have banks and governments forcing you into debt, you have to realize cui bono, who benefits? Well, the government benefits. A populace in debt is a populace in servitude. If they shove you down a bottomless pit of debt, you are forced to ask for a ladder up from the government and the banking system, pushing you into perfect servitude right where they want you. And as we approach a recession, and as we approach as we've seen with the bond inversion, but as we see at the same time with a housing bubble and a pension bubble and a student loan bubble and this baby boomer bubble, the derivatives bubble, the banks are all bankrupt. How long do you think this can possibly be put off for? So we need to be seriously protecting our purchasing power here and being responsible, because responsibility is a hallmark of freedom itself, and without it we have nothing. We need to prepare ourselves and not wait for someone else to do it for us, because that creates a Hegelian dialectic of problem, reaction, solution, repeat for eternity. And when I'm thinking about this, I think of, like it mentioned, people going to Florida. The whole area around New York, Boston, the Detroit area, New Jersey, as we see here with Connecticut to a great extent, they're moving to Florida, places with 0% state income tax, as we see Californians moving to Nevada, and we see them moving to Arizona. And I'll tell you, being in Nevada, I don't have anything really against it. People can go wherever they want and escape complete centralization if they want, but people are not liking it too much in Nevada, seeing all the California license plates, but that's all right. I'm driving around a Canadian license plate here. But my point is, when you have higher taxes, when you have higher regulations, you have less employment, you have more poverty, and you see the most taxed places are also the most poor places, and these people who love centralization, these leftists, and in many cases on the right as well, just want to control everything and centralize everything and prop everything up the way they want to see fit. It's like gentrification of the markets, and in the end, it always results in these kinds of collisions of a vast scale of monetary destruction, of debt everywhere you look. And I think it's pretty signatory. You see that with the minimum wage hike as well. Businesses are running out of these places, and then at the same time you do have Trump saying employment's doing great. Well, no, the labor force participation rate should be counted in, because the United States, as well as many other countries, has this sneaky way of hiding the true employment rate numbers with not counting people as unemployed after a certain amount of time, and then they factor that into the labor force participation rate. But anyway, my point is, we are being centralized from left and right. They are plundering us. They are destroying us. They are pushing us into debt servitude. And it's no doubt that this is going to continuously happen in a circle if we continuously look to government and banks to save us from the things that governments and banks created in the first place. And governments and banks benefit from our servitude and our stupidity and our dependence. So what are we going to do about that? Well, protect your purchasing power. In my opinion, not investment advice, but gold and silver as wealth insurance, as it has been throughout history, but that isn't even an investment anyway. Again, that's wealth insurance. There's a difference between investing in gold and silver and insuring your purchasing power. But also on top of that, we have, properly decentralized, fundamentally useful cryptocurrencies. There's a few of them, not a lot of them, because most are not very good. but the ones that are truly competitive and innovative and changing the world, and are censorship proof and are mostly the privacy oriented ones are great too. We can avoid and escape this system completely with the combination of that technology and, of course, gold and silver as well, and diversification of wealth, as people have mentioned here on this channel before. I mean, it's almost just as bad to own only gold and silver as it is to own no gold and silver. You need to diversify. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. And this is all my opinion, again, not investment advice. Laws are stupid regarding talking about this stuff because they don't want you to know these truths. They don't want you to study money. They don't want you to understand money, because if you understand money, you have control over your money. And if you have control over your money, you have control over yourself. And the establishment would much rather you think it's all boring and confusing and push it away and then get controlled and led to the slaughter. So I think it's really important that we look at how this has been propped up in the first place, the vast bubbles, the real estate bubbles that we're seeing left and right. And we've correctly called the fall of all these markets, including San Diego and Vancouver and Toronto. And this is all inevitable. It has to eventually fall, and to think that this will just go up forever is so ridiculous. And you see people, they just watch HGTV all day, and they think, oh, I can flip a house and do all this stuff, and not know anything about the market itself, and it's so irresponsible, and they get into debt, and then they end up in a lot of trouble. So and the more we understand this stuff, the more control we have over our own lives. And it's only going to get worse as far as this system goes. So we need to break free from that system, ignore the system, disobey the system, and run our own lives, rule ourselves, decentralize, be responsible, as responsibility is the most important part of all of this. Self-responsibility. You can't beat it. It's what kept us alive as human beings for so many millennia. So anyway, we will continue to break down this issue as it continues to elapse. It's happening in Connecticut. It's happening in New York. It's happening in Seattle. It's happening in LA. It's happening in San Diego. It's happening throughout Texas. It's happening in New Orleans. It's happening everywhere you look. And what are we going to do about it? Oh, I can't forget Ohio and Denver and New Jersey. It's proving my point. It's everywhere. It's everywhere, and we need to break free as free human beings. Anyway, I'll talk to all you guys soon. Thanks for watching. This is Josh Sigurdson signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change. All right, I'm still here, guys. Don't go anywhere. Don't exit out. Always people exiting out. As I said, I do these reports live, and then I cut them, and then I repost them later. Let's see. I got lots of people commenting, but I do have Rainy Steps sent $2.79 Canadian. Said that's a bargain. Well, thank you very much for the super chats. I really appreciate it. It really makes a huge difference. It keeps us alive. And for those interested, here is our Bitcoin address to tip. It keeps us up and running. I'm spending a fortune on this African trip. I didn't expect it to cost so much. It's just more cost coming in every 10 seconds. It's, oh man, I don't know how I'm going to do it, but the investigations have to be done. Gotta do it. Anyway, let's see. I think I got another report I want to do here. JRM O'Brien says, hey, can you go on D Live? It's easier to donate. They don't take a percentage from the donations. Only restriction is you need 2,000 Lino to withdraw, which is like $30 US. Please. Yeah. Our correspondent and contributor, Tim Pashot, is actually working on D Live right now. I'm not sure what's going on with that. My whole thing with D Live is I like them, but I just don't like the fact that they took down so many videos. I think it was last year when they switched blockchains, and there's so little, commentary about that. They didn't warn people about it. It was just kind of, everything was gone and wiped out, and it was just kind of not cool. But anyway, let's get into another story. I do have lots of people commenting here, but I don't know the context, and I can't read the whole story, obviously, for obvious reasons. But I see a lot of people commenting. I'll just try to grab something. UFO Logilta says bye. All right, see you later. Arturo Villa Lobo says this is real news. Thanks, Josh. I really appreciate it. It's hard to keep up these days. There's no shortage of news. That's one thing that'll never get automated. News. That's a good thing for me, I guess. Dustin L says, oh yeah, it's in the middle of Africa. I'm guessing you guys are talking about the reshot structure, which I'm going to soon. And again, I can't tell you guys when I'm going because it puts me in a lot of danger. I probably shouldn't have even told anyone that I was going beforehand, but I wanted you guys to know why I was just randomly disappearing for half a month. Yeah, it's slightly terrifying, but I'm hoping for the best. I'm sure it'll all work out just fine. It's just, yeah, we are going there soon, and it's going to take me out of the loop for a little while, so it's kind of brutal because I just got hit with a wall of monetary problems right as this happened. I've been so screwed by YouTube lately. It's like watching a car crash, and I thought the African trip would be cheap, and then all these expenses keep adding on to everything, and it's just getting to the point where it's costing me everything I have to go to Africa. So I'm going broke because of it. So hopefully I can get somewhere with the documentary after, and people support our work somehow in any way. It just makes it possible for us to stay alive, because it's not looking good right now, honestly. But we'll never give up. But I mean, look at this right now. We have 37 people watching this video out of 121,000 people. 37 out of 121,000 people. How incredibly ridiculous is that? It's just, this is what we're dealing with, guys. That's not natural. It is not natural to see 37 people out of 121,000 people. Like, that's obvious shadow banning. They're not even trying to hide it. They're just getting to the point where they're like, oh, we don't care if people see anymore because we are so above the law, or whatever you want to call it. And it's sad. Doug209 says, see if you can visit Cape Town. That's on the other side of the continent, unfortunately, from where I'm going in Africa. 279 from Rainy Steps. Okay, stop complaining. I have to complain. I have to complain. It's like I'm going to end up homeless. I'm going to end up homeless doing this with YouTube shadow banning us at this extent. Namej R says, oh, what's not natural, the 37 or the 121K? What's not natural is that there was 37 people watching out of 121,000 people. People aren't being notified. I'm pretty sure 0.03% of my audience seeing my videos is not natural. I see other people with channels that have like 40,000 subscribers rather than 121,000 subscribers that are having like 500 people or 600 people watching their live streams. And it's honestly worse quality than these. So it's really bad. I don't know what to do about it. I'm just trying to back myself up on as many places or many backups or alternatives as possible. But we are basically doing whatever we can to keep people watching and have the ability to fund ourselves so we can continue doing this. Because I'm posting 1 to 4 videos every single day, which is a lot of work. And when I can't pay rent, not very good. I was making more money at this when I had a quarter of the subscribers due to the lack of shadow banning at that time due to this. And I'm not doing this for money. I did it for years without making a cent. I did this because I'm passionate. But it's gotten to the point where it's monetarily impossible. I don't know how anyone's doing it. I'm looking at a lot of people. Luke Radowski of We Are Change, he's posting like 4 videos a day, and he's barely getting anything for it. Then there's, Dan Dix of Press for Truth. He's getting destroyed as well. And then people get mad when there's like 2 ads on a video. And they're like, screw this, I'm unsubscribing. There's 2 advertisements on a video. I'm like, first, get ad block for free if you want. And second, how do you think it's possible for us to possibly fund a media for free? Like, it's not, it makes sense to have an ad on a video. Thank you, Rainy Steps. Another $2.79 says, everyone give him a few bucks, please. I don't want to beg. It's gotten to the point where we have 121,000 subscribers, and we're trying to reach out, and we're not reaching anyone. I mean, if it were just demonetization, we'd find a way. We can do promotions, and we could, have a sponsorship or something like that, and that's fine. But it's just the fact that it's not just demonetization; it's just not being allowed to be seen, which is really hurting us. 1 to 2% on average of our audience sees our videos. It's just not a likely scenario, and they'll freeze our views for like 25 minutes when we first post, which totally screws the algorithm. It's bad. Anyway, I want to get to another story before I go, and I really appreciate the super chats. They help keep us alive and keep us up and running. So anything you can help is really, really a positive thing. We really appreciate it. But anyway, let's get to some more news stories. And again, when I close off this news story, it doesn't mean I'm gone. Stay here. I'm just cutting it out later on to repost. So when I say find the truth, be the change, and all that kind of stuff, I'm not going anywhere. I'm still here. Anyway, let's get into the story. As this Zero Hedge article says, 2 out of 3 of American CFOs are predicting a recession by the summer of 2020. And as the article goes into, while 2/3 of American CFOs see the storm clouds gathering of another recession within the next 18 months, almost 87% say the recession will strike by the first quarter of 2021. And this is a kind of sentiment that we're seeing a lot lately, especially with the yield curve inverting the 10-year and the 3-month. Just so ridiculous. Always signatory of a recession on the horizon. But anyway, as it continues, it says, even though the timing is off, one thing is clear. American CFOs are warning the public to prepare for another recession. According to the latest Duke CFO Global Business Outlook survey released Wednesday, 67% of those surveyed predicted the U.S. economy would be in recession by the third quarter of 2020, and 84% believe a recession will have begun by the first quarter of 2021. The survey generated responses from more than 1,500 chief financial officers, including 469 from North America, and additionally showed that 38% of respondents predicted a recession by the first quarter of next year. John Graham, finance professor, the Fuqua School of Business at Duke University, I don't know how to pronounce that, and director of the survey, told MarketWatch that while CFOs are not quite as pessimistic as they were 3 months ago, it is unusual in the history of the survey for such a large share of respondents to predict a recession just 16 months from now. And I quote, "The recession predictions are closer than usual, with a greater magnitude of respondents indicating recession fears of an economic meltdown," Graham said. Last quarter's survey showed a greater degree of pessimism, with nearly half of respondents predicting a recession by the end of 2019. But that's to be expected as consumer confidence rose slightly. Graham also said that there is a very clear trend of deteriorating optimism among American CFOs as the share of executives surveyed who have grown more optimistic about the U.S. economy has fallen from 53.3% a year ago to 24.1% today. And their pessimism surrounding the economy is well-deserved. We are in a credit bubble, the likes of which the world has never seen. One wrong move, one small ripple could make a massive tsunami that could quickly spiral out of control, impoverishing millions, if not billions, around the globe. Consider beginning to prepare now for what so many people already know is inevitable. The prepper's blueprint will walk even the beginner through how to prepare for any situation that arises. Financial preparation is easy enough, but it's difficult at the same time. Paying off your debts is the best way to survive and even thrive during an economy that's melting down around you, especially since the globe is in a debt bubble of apocalyptic proportions. And I quote, "If we have learned one thing studying the history of disasters, it is this: those who are prepared to have a better chance at survival than those who are not." Tess Pennington, the Prepper's Blueprint. Let's also look into this article quickly. 60% of millennials don't have $500 in savings ahead of the next recession. And This is such a huge cloud that's looming over us. I mean, as we've mentioned, the yield curve data shows very clearly, as it always has before, that a recession is on the horizon, and we see that coming very close, and we see that in other countries as well, as Canada with a 10-year inverting with the 1 month, which is different from the U.S.'s 10-year with the 3 month. But it's all signatory of the same thing, and this is a global issue more than anything, with a everything bubble worldwide. And we see the stock market bubbled up so much. They say that optimism changed a bit in the first 3 months of 2019. Yeah, because everyone just gets brainwashed and indoctrinated into thinking everything's going to be fine if everything looks fine for the time being. There's a tornado coming, but the sky is blue right now. We know the tornado's coming, but let's just focus on the blue sky and let's not prepare. And it's just so ridiculous, and it just shows the mental gymnastics people go over to confirm their own bias. Of course, people will say we've been talking about this forever, and we have, because we've been right forever, and we've been right leading into 2007, 2008, and then that was pushed off, and the banks are still bankrupt and insolvent. And the bubble is even worse today, and it'll come down even harder today because of it. The economy has to walk off a cliff soon. China and India are set to surpass the United States empire in the coming years, and we know what happens with the Chinese technocratic superstate cashless society, centrally planned, that is, as a world currency rising in the next decade or two. But the point is, we see all the telltale signs of a massive recession on the horizon, and it's going to be worse than just a recession. It's going to be a crash the likes of the world has never seen before, considering we have not just all the CFOs saying this is going to happen in the next couple of years, but on top of that, we have all the data that's adding up from years of being perpetuated and pushed off from the past recessions and crashes of the past, bubble bursts of the past, and then repeating the same things that have been done in the past on crack, and then the Federal Reserve propping up stock markets artificially, their $0 desk on Wall Street, their plunge protection team. This is all part of a vast scenario, and it's a desperation move in a lot of ways to push towards the centrally planned cashless society, restrict our free will more, cause order out of chaos, cause people to be divided, attack each other, people to be further impoverished. And there's so many impoverished people right now, and we can blame inflation, and we can blame government programs, and we can blame regulations and taxation and the slave farm that we live on under the organized crime cartel we call governments and banks. And the further in debt we are, the further in servitude we are. So it benefits them to push us into servitude. If they shove us down a bottomless pit of debt, they are forced to ask for a ladder up from the government and the banking system, pushing us into perfect servitude to them, right where they want us. And of course, the divide and conquer agenda combined with that is perfect for them. All fiat currencies eventually revert to their true value of zero. They always have, they always will, going back to 1024 AD in China, and this time won't be any different. They are saying that they won't, raise interest rates anymore, and that everything's all good. Trump is saying lower interest rates would print more money. It's all so ridiculous. It all just leads to the same form of cancer, centralization, collectivism. It's like, pick your cancer, folks. Which kind? Do you want this kind of cancer or that kind? You only have two choices. No, you have choices to rule yourself, protect your purchasing power, and ensure your wealth, and take your own financial stability into your own hands instead of looking at those who create the problem in the first place to fix the problems. Perpetual Hegelian dialectic of problem, reaction, solution, repeat for eternity. So will the interest rates go negative? Of course they have to. Look at past interest rate charts and crises and how far they drop it off. And what was it, just over 5% between 2008 and 2012? Well, we are at such a ridiculously low level right now, and a bigger financial crisis on the horizon. What do you think is going to happen? It's another tax overall. And we've seen what's happened in Japan and in Sweden. And they pushed the centrally planned cashless society, utilizing those negative interest rates as well. There seems to be a correlation. And that means more, dependence on the government, more surveillance, more control of the populace. Everything's taxed, everything's tracked. If your money's in the bank already, as it is, it's not yours, it's the bank's. But if your money's always going through the banks via digital transactions and legal tender laws, by fiat, if you will, it's never your money. It's always the banks, and you are essentially enslaved to the banking system and the government, for that matter, who pushes the legal tender laws and forces you to pay off the interest on the debt via the hand of extortion. So my point is, Housing bubbles are bursting, pension bubbles are bursting, student loan bubbles, baby boomers are dying off, but they're the biggest spenders into the economy, but they're also vastly in debt, and then the millennial generation is dependent on them, also heavily in debt, and children are being indoctrinated in indoctrination camps we call public schools to accept the realities and not actually learn what's actually happening, but simply be indoctrinated into being dependent and beg the government for things and handouts and to save them from the same things that the government creates in the first place. A culture of dependency, if you will, and weakness and stupidity. IQs dropping like a rock. My point is, this is all a combined effort by the state to make us dependent and stupid and make us more easily able to be sacrificed as pawns for the king and the queen, which is always something that they plan. The government doesn't do anything they don't personally benefit from. They cannot give you freedom, they can only take it away. So every time the government does anything and every time the banking system does anything, there's a reason for it, there's a script at play, and I honestly think there's a lot of optimism out of this as well. From the perspective of an individual, what you can do to protect your wealth and ensure your wealth. Gold and silver, not advice, just obviously my opinion. So don't take it as investment advice. But gold and silver aren't meant as investments anyway. Overall, they're wealth insurance as they have been throughout history. And then, of course, diversification of wealth and looking at things like cryptocurrencies that have fundamental value that are properly decentralized. The privacy-oriented ones are the best. Just disobey, rule yourself, be responsible, break free from that system. Don't depend on that system to save you from that system, because you're going to have a bad time. Anyway, thanks for watching, everyone. Until next time, this is Josh Sigurdson signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change. All right. That was a little bit tiring. Okay. Let's see. We got another $2.79 from Rainy Steps. Could one of you give him a donation, please? Yeah. It's weird. I appreciate every donation. It's just it's weird that I don't really want to get into it. It's when you have 121,000 subscribers, and you're providing thousands of people with information, and they're shadow banning you and everything. I get a lot of comments like, well, find a way to do something about it. But it's like, we are the change we wish to see in the world, and I'm going to do it one way or another. I'll never give up. But it's also strange to see, I don't know. I get donations from 3 or 4 people a month out of 121,000 people. It's just, I don't know. It's just kind of sucks. I really hate complaining about it. It's just there's something weird about that. We're trying to be the future of media and replace media, and we need the public's help to do that. There's no other way to do it. It's the only way we can succeed in an information war that is going to erode our free will, is going to destroy us and lead us to the slaughter if we don't defeat. And it's a perfect timing as people are leaving the mainstream media en masse, but at the same time, the mainstream media is taking over YouTube and stopping us from being able to get our message out and actually spread information. So it gets to the point where it's just, we are getting attacked from all ends. They are removing comments, they're removing likes, they're not notifying people, they're shadow banning us to death. We're reaching 1% to 2% of our audience on average. It's crazy. We're getting the same amount of views right now on average on YouTube that we got years ago when we were just starting out. So it's sad and it's crazy, and I don't know what to do about it other than I am backing myself up on every other alternative. The problem is with that, YouTube is the only one that's not completely an echo chamber, though they're trying to make it so. That's the one good thing about YouTube, is that I'm allowed to reach people outside of the box and reach people that disagree. It's good to reach people that disagree. It's important. But anyway, I don't know how much longer I can do it without the help of our viewers. It's getting to the point where I don't have any money, and I'm gonna do this one way or another. I'll always find a way, and I did this for the first couple years with no money, and I was almost homeless on multiple occasions because I care about this and I want to bring people information. But yeah, I'm getting to the point where I'm going to end up losing my home. So It's getting really bad, and I just it was weird because with Africa going to the reshot structure, I looked into it and I was like, it was going to cost like $600 total, and then all these other expenses started adding up, and it's crazy how much bus fare costs in Mauritania and Morocco and stuff. It's so crazy. It's like it just added up to so much money that when I get back, not only will I have not posted a video in half a month, so there will be no revenue at all, but also I'm gonna get back completely broke. So I'm gonna need the help of the viewer who likes this content, who wants to see this content. Any way possible, $1 makes a difference. So it's, yeah, anyway. We're all getting hit really hard on YouTube, and the future of independent media lays in your hands. We can do whatever we can, but it's you that will decide the future fate of the spread of information and not allow it to be encroached upon, politically correctized, if that's a term. I'm sure it's not, and destroyed and deep-sixed. So it's going to come down to all of you. Anyway, I do want to actually mention, for those interested, we are going to be starting doing subscriber-only content soon on Subscribestar. It's linked below. You'll see it below. Subscribestar allows us to reach people with not safe for YouTube comments or content for certain tiers, right? It's $4.99 a month, US dollars, that is, will get you that content. And then $20 and $100 are other tiers, and there's other tiers and stuff. But it makes you essentially a producer, and it allows us to reach you with the content that if we tried to post on YouTube, they would just take our channel down or just completely demonetize us 100%, and we would be really screwed. We're also kind of hoping for a crypto bull market sometime soon. That would be nice. I really appreciate it, Rainy Steps. She's been I've seen 279 Canadian coming from their direction. Really appreciate that. It helps a lot. Don't you have a job? I quit my job years ago to do this 24/7, and it worked, and I was able to live off it. I still am to an extent. It's just impoverished living, but I'm able to live off of it, and I don't mind. I mean, doing what I love for a living and bringing people information is priceless. But yeah, it's getting worse over the last few months. But I've been doing this for 6 years. Yeah, it's the only way you can bring people content every single day. And if you're not doing in life what you love, you shouldn't be doing it. End stop, period. You should be running away from whatever you get stuck in, any kind of dead-end job. Run away from it. I know there's consequences, but we have to take those consequences in life, because what will you regret more on your deathbed? Will you regret doing things that took risk and potentially put you in a bad situation for a little while but led you to your goals? Or will you regret not doing things when you had the chance? I think I know what that'll be. Life is too short. Life is a miracle. Do what you can with your life. Make the best of it. Make every moment count. Try to experience in 1 year what most experience in a lifetime. I think and it's an old John Lennon quote, life is what happens to you when you're busy making other plans. Don't allow yourself to be distracted from life. It's just, I realize Wars Info says people are feeling the pinch. I realize that. That's why I understand. It's just out of 121,000 people, I mean, I don't know. There's a big problem with everything from the economy, the bear market in cryptos, inflation, markets, all that kind of stuff. It adds up. People are feeling the pinch, absolutely. But again, 121,000 people. I've met actually, so in the last couple of years, I've met a couple people who are billionaires who are like, I love your work. You do the most amazing work. I watch every single one of your videos. Billionaires. And then they're like, yeah, it's so sad to see what's happening to you right now. And I'm like, yeah, any help is very much appreciated. I have a thing about not asking people for money, like, especially when I end up around like rich people. They don't get rich by giving people money, and I don't make money by asking people or begging people for money. I just got to give the opportunity or the option, right? But it would be crazy not to. It would be stupid not to. for the sake of the enterprise of the media itself. But yeah, just like billionaires, and they're like, yeah, I love what you do. I watch every video. It's so crazy to watch what YouTube's doing to you. And then it's like, dude, like $1? You're a billionaire. Come on, man. It's sad, but what are you gonna do? I try so hard not to get into this. It's just I'm feeling the pinch more than ever lately. So, but either way, I'll just keep doing this as long as I live. Never gonna stop. I love it. I love every second of it. I love reaching out to people. I love changing people's lives. I love influencing people. It's a beautiful thing. So I understand that it's not always going to be easy, and that's part of, I guess, the information war that we're dealing with. So anyway, and actually, J.R.M. O'Brien says the rich stay rich for a reason. They are the most stingy people. In a lot of cases, not always. I've met some very, very good people who are mega rich in the past. I wish they'd help me more, but they got their own things going on. I understand that. You can't give everyone money in the world. It's like that Ayn Rand quote, you'll end up poor eventually if you just give everyone money. But I also noticed that like some of the most unhappy people I've ever met have been rich. So that also stands out to me. Like some of the most unhappy, depressed, sad, unhealthy people I've ever met in my life have been really rich people. So obviously money isn't the goal. Money's just a way to getting to the goal. Unfortunately, it's not a necessity. It's just probably will make it 100 times easier to get to a goal utilizing money. It's hard to live on the streets and do all this kind of stuff. What am I going to do all these videos in internet cafes? I'll get kicked out by the baristas so fast. But anyway, I really appreciate everyone joining us today. We are going to continuously keep getting this stuff up, and I'm going to be doing videos, more high quality 4K videos soon. I haven't been able to get a hold of John Snyson lately, so I got to get a hold of him. I know he's working on an event. I'm working on an event too, so stay tuned for that. And also check for Red Pill Expo below. Red Pill Expo, that's a big one. And I'm looking forward to seeing a lot of you there. But anyway, I'm not sure if I even have it linked here. That's convenient. It doesn't look like I do. Anyway, but I'll be back with you guys with much more. I want to do another ancient civilization video before I end up going to Africa, just in case it's my last moments. I want to get more on that subject up. I'm just kidding. I'm sure I'll be fine. It is sketchy though. And it has been making me a little mentally unstable, to say the least, lately, just thinking about it. But it should be okay. I think the biggest issue with Africa is the money going across Africa. It's going to be such a crazy expedition. And I don't know. And I don't think they take credit card in most places. So anyway, I'm going to take off. Thanks for joining us, everyone. It means a lot to be able to reach all of you every single day and continuously give you guys content. And if you like it, support it. If you don't like it, don't support it. If you like it and you can't support it, that's absolutely fine as well. Money doesn't come easy these days. The almighty dollar. Anyway, thanks for joining us, everyone. Until next time, this is Josh Sigurdson signing out from World Alternative Media. Oh, wait a second. Wars Info just sent $10. I cannot leave when everyone is sending me super chat suddenly. Excellent, unique content, my brother. God bless. God bless you as well. Thank you so much. Brett Wright sent $5. Is Bright Insight interested in joining you to your trip to Africa? He isn't interested in going with me. He's an Iraq vet, and he's concerned for those reasons, and I don't blame him. But yeah, he's awesome. I have been talking with him off and on. He's been a big reason why I've got into this in the first place. So, I mean, I've been studying ancient civilizations for a long time, and he made it way more interesting. His videos are just absolutely incredible, and his videos on the reshot structure really got me to the point where I'm like, I gotta go there. I really gotta go there. So that's gonna be amazing. I can't wait. I'm a little bit concerned. But Bright Insight now, and you don't want to lose both of us. If something happens, you want, Bright Insight and me to get vanished. We need one of us out there. But anyway, JRM O'Brien, thank you very much for the $2 super chat. Really appreciate it at the end of this show. It means a lot. And Rainy Stephs, thank you for all the encouragements. Also means a lot. We can't do it without you guys, and makes all of this possible. I do feel like a homeless person sometimes, asking for money. Does make me feel kind of bad, and it's not like in my nature to be like that. It's not in my nature to be confrontational at all, and then I end up confronting the Prime Minister of Canada and stuff, right? I mean, you got to go out of your comfort zone sometimes to make things happen, and I just really appreciate the support. I do get a lot of support, and some of the most incredible support I get is the viewership and people sharing and liking the video, right? So it means a lot. So anyway, I do have to go. I appreciate it. Until next time, this is Josh Sigurdson signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change.